Hey guys, welcome to today's YogiMedicine session. Welcome, thanks for tuning in. My name is Dr. Adam Tice, and today we're going to talk about the perfect diet. Okay, so what do I mean by that? First of all, for those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Dr. Adam Tice. I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor. I work with my patients to restore their health using 100% natural medicines, and diet is a huge part of what I do. It's really it's the foundation of the way that I work with my patients, who most of them, we're talking about complex chronic diseases, and we have to have a solid foundation to build on. So I wanted to introduce the way that I approach that and what I understand diet to be and what I've seen over my years and my experience of working with people, what works and how we actually do that. So my goal is to transmit some of that today to you guys. So the perfect diet, and spoiler, I'm not going to tell you to be vegan. I'm not going to tell you to eat any kind of specific diet, because that's a moving, it's changing all the time, and there is no such thing as a perfect diet. That's the truth. Anybody that tells you that there is a perfect diet and this perfect way of eating for everyone, it's not true. So that's the first thing. Let's just put that out there. Now, moving forward, what do we actually mean by diet? So I want to introduce this and kind of work in, and I actually one of my goals today is to introduce one of the key concepts of spiritual nutrition, which is truly holistic nutrition, full body nutrition. Let's do that from the ground up. So the physical nutrition, the physical diet, these are the building blocks of life. These are the proteins, the carbohydrates, the fats, the macronutrients, and our micronutrients, all of our vitamins, and all the different minerals and things. This is what we commonly think of as, and most people understand this is nutrition, and that's true. Now, the thing is, there's no perfect, across the board, one size fits all cookie cutter diet. There's just not. So if I have a pediatric, someone that's 6 years old, they're going to have certain needs. They're going to have biochemical individuality. They're going to have certain constitutional makeup, and these kind of things are going to influence how we, what kind of recommendations we make. If I have a 22-year-old that's healthy and really into meditation and exploring this kind of dimension of their life, and their health is spectacular otherwise, we'll have a certain recommendation for that person. If I have someone that's 72 years old and we're dealing with complex chronic degenerative conditions, we're going to have another set of recommendations for that person. So just step one is understanding that there is biochemical individuality. That means that person A and person B, they have a certain way that their body is expressing their genes, and they have certain ways that perhaps their digestive enzymes are coded genetically. They're going to have their constitutional makeup. This is something that, part of my background is in the Ayurvedic and the yogic sciences. So I look through that lens. I'm looking through a constitutional lens also, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. The different body types, digestive types. Again, these kind of things are going to influence what kind of foods a person needs, and that's pretty straightforward. We can look at, based on the age and the season of life that a person is in. We look at the season of the year, and even sometimes through the week, The diet changes, it floats, it moves, it's dynamic. It's not this static flatline thing like once you figure it out, like that's it, the end. It doesn't work like that. It never works like that. You know, that's part one. So that's the physical part of it. And we got to kind of start there, and that's where we enter the conversation, because that's very, very grounded, very physical. Now, the other part of what we have to look at when we're talking about, because the way that I look at digestion is, and the way that I work with my patients and with my people, I'm looking at a whole person, truly a holistic approach. What do I mean by that? I mean, I see an individual as a full spectrum being. I see the individual as having a physical body. That being also has mental and emotional bodies. They have breath bodies. They have, intellectual bodies, and the deeper, the more subtle, the spiritual bodies. These are the layers of a being. There are different energy centers in a being. Again, these are age-old sciences that the rishis, the siddhas, the yogis, they gave us this knowledge. So again, that's part of what my background is. So that's the lens that we're looking through this. If you want to understand how to truly nourish your being, nourish the bodies, full spectrum body, physical, breath, mental, emotional, intellectual, the spiritual bodies. And again, you could kind of state that in slightly different ways depending on which tradition you're talking about, but you get the general idea. There are you have more than one body, and these are kind of nested on each other. And so our energy body actually extends out, okay? And so just like our cells and our tissues, they absorb and they receive that nutrition, the physical nutrition that we ingest, and then that's how we begin that process of tissue formation. And there's a sequential process from the plasma to the blood, the muscle, the fat, the bone, the nervous tissue and the reproductive tissue. There is a science to how this is actually, how the tissue and how the body is created. And Ayurveda spells this out very, very explicitly. It's very straightforward, highly complex science, but it's broken down into really simple terms. Maybe we can do another video on tissue formation sometime from the Ayurvedic Siddha perspective. But for the full spectrum nutrition, the spiritual nutrition, we have to look at a person's life. What kind of things are we consuming? And we have to look at this, meaning what kind of, what's the atmosphere? What kind of conversations, what sort of information, what sort of emotions and thoughts are we digesting? We ought to look at this stuff. For example, just look anytime. How many times have you, been somewhere out in public and you overhear someone kind of saying something, and you have no idea, but this person is, complaining about something or saying something, and then you find yourself 4 hours later when you're driving down the road on the way home, or you're at home later, and there you are thinking about that. That's a form of digestion. You have to digest this stuff. So what I'm saying is, and what I'm introducing, is this idea of full spectrum holistic awareness, and this is one of the key concepts of understanding spiritual nutrition. Spiritual nutrition being the holistic nutrition. We have to digest not only our foods, and that's individualized, but we also have to digest our emotions, the situations, the circumstances, the stuff that's happening in our lives day in and day out. We have to digest that. And if we don't, there gets an indigestion that happens. You get a constipation of sometimes emotions or thoughts. And these get actually stored in different organs. And if this goes on unaddressed for some time, there will be a physical manifestation of this. There will be some sort of, for example, if there is, undigested anger and irritation, the liver is the one that's got to digest that and process that. And so if we have those undigested emotions and undigested thoughts, and this goes untended to, then downstream it is more likely that there will be some issue with that organ or that system, and then that will start to create issues in the tissues, and then we'll start to finally, eventually, start to see some physical symptoms manifest, things showing up on the blood work, these kinds of things. And then we have to kind of work our way backwards and trace this down and address this. But one way or another, it has to be addressed, and we have to be mindful of this level of the nutrition. So be aware of who you're hanging out with. Be aware of the kind of conversations that you're having. Be aware of the information that you're consuming, the information on wherever it is, whatever kind of platform it is, whether it's social media or just conversations or what books you're reading. This kind of information has to all be digested. And so this is one of the reasons that I highly recommend meditation. And meditation is actually a form of digestion. It's like a digestive aid. It's like an energetic digestive aid. This is how we can, one way that the being can digest the things that happen in the day. And so the easy way to introduce this into your life, little session in the morning. I'm not talking about 2 hours of intense meditation where we have to withdraw from society, this kind of stuff. I'm talking about real, practical, grounded solutions that will help your digestive process, help nourish you at the deeper levels so that you can express the physical health. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're really talking about. We want to generate physical health, wealth, happiness, prosperity. We all want the same things in life. And I think these understandings of holistic nutrition, spiritual nutrition, full spectrum, the full spectrum bodies is very important. And so if you introduce some kind of meditation, contemplation, practice in the morning and in the evening, even just a few minutes of sitting quietly and breathing and just practicing unclutching, means letting those thoughts and those emotions pass through, let them digest, give them that time to digest. There's a strategic intelligence in the body that will process these. It will move these things through the layers of the mind, from the conscious mind, and process them, give them a little bit of super conscious input into the system so that it doesn't just get pushed into the subconscious mind and kind of swept under the rug. So then later it explodes at some later time. Okay, so you may have experienced this, where at some time in your life, maybe from some either undigested emotional experience or too many intellectual ideas, or just the mind is running, or perhaps from some trauma early on in the life, or at any time in life, it has to be digested. And again, there are individualized, specific recommendations that we can make as practitioners and that we can do just as human beings to help digest these things. And this is part of what I do with my patients, is work through and talk about, introduce these ideas of spiritual nutrition, full spectrum nutrition, full body awareness, taking responsibility for the complete you, means physical, mental, emotional, all of these different layers. We got to take responsibility for these. Once we are aware of these things, we can start to nourish them properly. So that's the key concept that I wanted to introduce today in today's session. Again, these are not new ideas. These are ancient ideas and concepts that were given to us, then that are explained fully in the Ayurveda and the Siddha sciences and the sciences of nature cure and naturopathic principles. That's one of the ways that I bring these forward and actually ground them and make them practical for my patients. And that's one thing that I want to share with you guys. So now you can incorporate these ideas, start to think about these ideas, digest these concepts, because at the end of the day, you're eating physically, you're eating light, you're eating photons, you're consuming energy, pure energy. The being is energy. And the mental, the emotional level, you're ingesting, and you want to be sure that you're ingesting only powerful, nourishing cognitions. That means nourishing the mental and the intellectual and the emotional spheres with these positive, life-affirming, life-creating kind of principles. So that's the kind of body that you build. So your choice. You can build any kind of body you want. It's never too late. There's a dynamic strategic intelligence. It's always happening. This is quantum. It can, if you're really in a good spot with your health and you want to keep it that way, just incorporate these ideas. You may already be doing this in some way. If you want to recover your health, then it's not too late. Just incorporate, start thinking about these ideas and revolutionize the way you approach your nutrition and start tending to the full spectrum body. So this is spiritual nutrition, one of the dimensions of spiritual nutrition I wanted to introduce today. So we can explore these ideas further in some other sessions. I definitely will do that. There's multiple aspects, multiple dimensions, layers of this thing, but I thought this would be a good place to start. And so let me know what you guys think. Leave me a comment below. Let me know, if you have something to add or contribute, or if you've experienced some of these kind of things in your life. Be sure to, if you enjoyed the session today, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can get notified when we have new content out. And one announcement, I do have, I actually, again, one of the ways that this is how I think about nutrition, and it's one of the things that I do with all of my patients. And so I did a presentation on the principles of nature cure, and it kind of introduces some of these, in another dimension, some of these things. So that's a recent presentation I did. I'll leave a link for that one below. You guys can check that out too. There are some other videos also. And that's it for today, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you in the next session.